It was not a casual affair, it was a performance, a public declaration. One could call it the debut ritual. Picture the scene. A magnificent ballroom, heavy with the scent of lilies and the hushed murmur of hundreds of voices. The young woman, often pale with a mixture of excitement and terror, would be led onto the floor, her very presence a meticulously crafted demonstration of her family's standing and their desire to solidify their place in the glittering hierarchy of New York's elite. For the women of Gilded Age high society, the debut ritual was a thrilling, terrifying, and utterly indispensable rite of passage, a grand spectacle designed not merely to announce a daughter's availability for marriage, but to rigorously define and fiercely protect the boundaries of their exclusive world. It was through this elaborate social machinery that they relentlessly maintained their distinct and enviable social identity, ensuring that only those deemed truly worthy could enter their hallowed circles. This wasn't simply about announcing a daughter's readiness for marriage, though that was certainly the ostensible aim whispered discreetly behind gloved hands. No, the debut was, first and foremost, a formidable bulwark for upholding the established social order. It was a carefully constructed filter designed to affirm the proper sort of individual, ensuring that entry into society's upper echelons was based not solely on amassed wealth, but on a blend of pedigree, polish, and undeniable social sanction. The women who orchestrated these events, the matriarchs of these prominent families, were fiercely protective of their social standing, understanding that their influence depended on the careful curation of their ranks. For them, true belonging required the correct connections, impeccable manners, and, most critically, the explicit approval of the reigning social arbiters. The rigorous preparation for this grand entrance began long before the young lady reached the tender age of 17 or 18. From earliest childhood, these girls were groomed for their ultimate purpose, to make an advantageous match and, by extension, to bolster the family's social and financial standing. This often meant an education far removed from the intellectual rigor afforded to their brothers. Instead, finishing schools, often European, became the crucible where future debutantes were forged. Here, they didn't dissect frogs, they dissected social scenarios. They mastered the intricate footwork of the waltz and the polka, learned the delicate art of conversation, which often meant knowing precisely what not to say, and acquired fluency in French, a language deemed essential for a lady of refinement, even if her travels never extended beyond the drawing rooms of Fifth Avenue. Etiquette, however, was the true curriculum. Every gesture, every tilt of the head, every precisely timed laugh was scrutinized and perfected. The way one held a teacup, the appropriate response to a compliment, the subtle art of ignoring a social faux pas, these were the true lessons, for adherence to these unspoken rules was the very bedrock upon which social acceptance was built. To falter, even slightly, was to betray one's lack of true breeding, and in the Gilded Age, such a betrayal was a social death sentence. The formal presentation itself was the apex of this carefully constructed ritual. The young woman, often pale with a mixture of excitement and terror, would be led onto the floor, usually by her father. This paternal escort was symbolic, underscoring her purity and her transition from the sheltered confines of girlhood into the dazzling, dangerous glare of society. She would be presented to the assembled guests, her very presence a demonstration of her family's wealth, influence, and their successful navigation of the treacherous currents of social acceptance. Her gown, inevitably white, symbolized innocence and availability, a blank canvas upon which her future husband's status could be painted. As she greeted each guest, her smiles were practiced, her curtsies perfected, each movement a silent affirmation of her readiness for the next stage of her existence, the daunting prospect of the marriage market. Indeed, the debutante ball was, at its heart, a sophisticated, if brutally efficient, human auction. Eligible young women, polished to a dazzling sheen, were put on display for the discerning eyes of bachelors and, more importantly, their mothers. The stakes were impossibly high. A successful match could elevate an entire family, securing their financial future and cementing their social position for generations. Conversely, a poor match, or worse, no match at all, could spell social ruin. The pursuit of a suitable husband was not a romantic quest, but a strategic maneuver, a meticulous calculus of inherited wealth, family connections, and future prospects. Young men, often burdened by the expectations of their own dynastic lineages, would circle, assessing, calculating. The mothers, hawk-eyed and ruthless, observed every interaction, every flirtation, every whispered word, dissecting each potential alliance with the precision of a surgeon. This was their domain, their battleground, and they were prepared to deploy every weapon in their arsenal, from carefully leaked gossip to strategically placed chaperones, to ensure their daughters secured the most desirable prize. The opulence of these events was staggering, designed explicitly to demonstrate status and wealth in a manner that left no room for doubt. Hosting a prominent debutante ball was a competitive sport, an arms race of lavishness. Ballrooms were transformed into veritable gardens, adorned with thousands of hothouse flowers flown in at immense cost. The finest chefs prepared elaborate meals, often served on bespoke china. Orchestras played ceaselessly, their music a luxurious backdrop to the serious business of social climbing. The guest list itself was the ultimate status symbol, carefully curated to reflect and reinforce the hierarchy of the established elite. It wasn't enough to simply have money, one had to know the right people, those who wielded the social power to grant or deny access. To be excluded from such an event, or to have one's daughter overlooked, was a profound humiliation, a public acknowledgement of one's peripheral status. These balls were not merely parties. They were living, breathing monuments to affluence, designed to awe, intimidate, and reinforce the impenetrable walls of the social fortress maintained by these women. At the very heart of this system of exclusivity and gatekeeping stood figures like Mrs. Carolyn Astor and Ward McAllister. They were the undisputed monarchs of old money New York society. Their word was law, their invitations sacred. Mrs. Astor, with her formidable presence and unshakable belief in the sanctity of the 400, a list reputedly limited to the number of people who could fit into her ballroom, was the ultimate arbiter of who was in and who was decidedly out. McAllister, her social lieutenant, was the architect of the social calendar, the master of ceremonies, and the public voice of this exclusive coterie. Together, they curated the social landscape, deciding whose family was sufficiently established, whose manners refined enough, whose lineage sufficiently unblemished to warrant entry into the rarefied air of society. The patriarch balls, conceived by McAllister and presided over by Mrs. Astor, were the ultimate expression of this gatekeeping. These were not open to just anyone with means. Entry was meticulously controlled to safeguard the integrity of their social identity. Invitations were carefully vetted, extended only to those deemed worthy, those who passed the invisible yet ironclad tests of pedigree and social rectitude. For young men, an invitation to a patriarch ball signaled their arrival, their acceptance into the inner sanctum. For young women, it was the definitive stamp of approval, a validation of their status and desirability within the marriage market. These events served as a filtering mechanism, ensuring that only the most select individuals were introduced to one another, thereby solidifying the bonds of the elite and perpetuating their influence. It was here that strategic alliances were most effectively forged, where futures were quietly discussed, and where the destiny of prominent families was often subtly yet irrevocably decided. Beyond the obvious aim of securing a husband, these balls provided crucial opportunities for young women to enhance their social connections. Friendships formed within these exclusive circles could be invaluable, offering a network of support, information, and future introductions. For families, the balls were not just about finding a spouse for a daughter, they were about strengthening existing alliances and forging new ones with other influential families. A well-placed friendship, a carefully nurtured connection, could open doors, facilitate business deals, and provide a buffer against social slights. The entire system was one of reciprocal benefit, a web of interconnected relationships designed to protect and promote the interests of its members. Crucially, the debutante ritual also served to control the narrative surrounding women's roles in society. While men engaged in the cutthroat world of finance and industry, women's success was largely measured by their ability to secure a desirable marriage and manage a prominent household. The debutante system reinforced these traditional gender roles, placing immense pressure on young women to conform to a narrowly defined ideal of femininity. Their education, their social training, and the very structure of the debut itself funneled them towards this singular objective. A woman's social value, her perceived intelligence, and her very worth were inextricably linked to her marital prospects. The ritual was a powerful tool in shaping expectations, ensuring that the daughters of the elite understood their place and their primary societal function, to be the elegant, poised, and fertile extensions of their family's power and prestige. Consider the immense pressure on these young women. After years of stringent training, of being told precisely how to walk, talk, and even breathe in polite society, their entire future hinged on a few fleeting months of social appearances. Every dance, every conversation, every outfit was scrutinized not just by watchful mothers, but by rivals, gossips, and the ever-present judging eyes of potential suitors. The Whisper Network was a potent force, capable of elevating a young woman to the pinnacle of desirability or consigning her to social obscurity with a single ill-placed rumor or perceived misstep. The goal was not merely to attend the balls, but to shine, to attract the most coveted attention, to emerge from the season with a ring on her finger and a triumphant smile on her mother's face. The strategic maneuvering extended beyond the ballroom. Mothers would meticulously plan their daughters' social calendars, ensuring they attended the right teas, the right dinner parties, the right carriage rides in Central Park. They would subtly steer their daughters towards desirable bachelors, employing carefully crafted introductions and opportune moments for private conversation. Daughters, often complicit in their own fates, learn to play the game, to feign a blush at the right moment, to offer a tantalizing glimpse of wit without appearing too intellectual, to project an aura of effortless charm while battling internal anxieties. The entire process was a delicate dance between genuine connection and calculated performance, all in service of the ultimate goal: a marriage that would secure not just their happiness, but their family's continued reign within the exclusive circles of Gilded Age society. In the end, the debut ritual, with its lavish parties, strict etiquette, and formidable gatekeepers, was far more than a charming tradition. It was a sophisticated, multi-layered mechanism designed to fortify the walls of exclusivity, to maintain the precise social identity of the elite, and to ensure that only the truly deserving, as defined by a handful of powerful individuals, gained entry into the glittering, coveted world of Gilded Age high society. It was a reflection of the era's obsession with status, a dramatic and often cruel performance played out on the grandest stages, all to preserve a social hierarchy as rigid and unyielding as the diamonds that adorn the necks of its most powerful women.